Welcome to the World Away.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust. Welcome back to the World Awaits. How are you all? How's your week been, Kirstie?
Well, you are about to hear all about my week. So let's just start with you. How's your week been, Belle?
I don't know if it's that exciting. Mostly desk-bound, writing about wineries in Orange. A public service announcement. If you are near Orange, which is 3.5 hours west of Sydney, the Orange Wine Festival is coming up from October the 17th to November the 2nd. And I did have a chat with ABC Radio Adelaide's Rory McLaren, and we were talking about travel in Asia and some of the places that you might consider to explore away from the hot spots like Hanoi and Phuket and Tokyo. So I'll pop a link in the show notes if you aren't sick of the sound of my voice yet.
Amazing. I'm sure no one's ever sick of the sound of your voice, and that stuff's all great advice, right? And we're all here because we love travel. So before we jump into the latest travel info chat this week, Belle, did you know that Gen Z are those aged up to the age of 28? 28 Gen Zs.
What?
Oh God.
No.
I know, it's frightening, right? It's frightening. And they are now the big decision makers when it comes to travel, obviously for themselves, but also because this generation ranges from 13 to 28. So they're the key decision makers as far as family travel go now.
Well, look, I don't know how that happened. We both have Gen Z kids, and they certainly have very big opinions about when it comes to travel, don't they? So far out. So Skyscanner has released some new stats on how they travel and how they make decisions about where to go. So whether you're listening because you're in the industry or you're an avid traveler and you want to know how your teen and adult children might be making decisions, listen in, because we're going to give you all the detail on it, because let's face it, they're not going to tell us, are they?
No, they tell us nothing. Grunts I'm getting from Mr. 17. So not surprisingly, this is a generation that scans flight prices like it's second nature, and they're using AI for travel planning. So globally, more than 80%, this is what the research found, more than 80% of Gen Z are using smartphones to research trips, and more than half favour online travel agents and direct online channels over traditional travel agents, which makes sense because they're, screen kids.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no surprises there. In Australia, 55% of Gen Z said they feel confident using AI to help plan and book trips. God help me. And half of them trust AI-generated travel itineraries. This is pretty concerning, given that we all know the accuracy just isn't there yet. But they are also not very decisive. And 93% of them, so almost every one of them, said overthinking can prevent them from booking travel. And 90% of them fear choosing the wrong destination, which can stop them from finalizing plans. Clearly, they need to listen to the podcast, right, Kirstie?
My God. And, I couldn't be more opposite. When it comes to travel, who needs to worry about being decisive? You just give me a great idea and I'm booking it. So in Australia, social media is the most popular source of travel inspiration for Gen Zs. Again, not very surprising, with 43% inspired by film and TV. So that gets back to that set jetting trend that Belle and I keep banging on about. And 15% of them are actually also inspired by podcasts. Most of them, about 88%, are travellers globally follow at least one travel influencer, and almost half trust influencer recommendations, and another almost half of them post their travels on social media, and 43% are prioritising trips that look good on the gram.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, because I reckon, I live on the ground as well. But Gen Z women were inspired to travel solo. So this is giving me heart, with 83% of them saying solo female travel content on social media has inspired them to venture out alone, which is awesome. They prize passport stamps over possessions, yay, and are open-minded when it comes to embracing a new culture. Gen Z are also foodies, and it's considered the most important factor for more than 60% of them when picking a holiday destination, which is higher than the weather and the shopping. And I think that probably goes for all of you and me as well, isn't it? I mean, I travel for food. I know you travel for the kayaking, I think, don't you?
Yeah, I'm traveling for the hiking and the biking. The other key trend found was that Gen Z seems to be more focused on health and wellness activities. Again, that's kind of in line with that generation now. And they're even going so far as to popularise dry holidays, so trips where they don't consume any alcohol. Millennials might have indulged in party tourism, but Gen Z prefers to get a full night's sleep. I don't know about that. Well, definitely not for mine. Well, the 20-year-old does, but not the 17-year-old. Anyway, and it says that they prefer to focus on daytime adventures and relaxation. Also, interestingly, 77% of Aussie Gen Z holidaymakers were keen to travel to a blue zone where people live the longest lives. And you can scoot back to episode 57 and listen to Blue Zone Vice President Nick Butner, who talks to us about how they came up with that term, blue zones, and where they are.
That is quite interesting and very surprising for me as well. More than half of them say that they're willing to pay extra to help lessen the environmental impact of their trips. This is giving me hope. And we're not just talking about ticking the eco-friendly filter and calling it a day. These travellers were actively steering away from over-touristed hotspots and seeking out stays that skip the single-use plastic and swapping high-emission activities for grounding days spent in nature.
Yeah, and in Australia, 76% of Gen Z travellers are open to choosing a less well-known destination, similar to what you were saying before about the over-touristed spots, over the popular ones. And also 47% have actively planned to visit a quieter place. So that has to be good for the industry going forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a generation that apparently is particularly drawn to nature when they travel. Compared with other age groups, they're more likely to plan outdoor activities on holidays like hiking and wildlife spotting. So around 30% said that they would choose either of those. And water sports like wild swimming, which I always wanted to do. Now, that has got to be universal though, hasn't it, Kirstie? Because, I mean, you love hiking, I love hiking, swimming. Maybe they've just skipped a generation and they're in line with Gen X. Aha! So we will put a link to the report in the show notes if you want to find out what your kids are actually thinking. This week, my guest is Kirstie. She is just back from the Melbourne suburb of Noosa. Oh, sorry, Queensland. But I do think that there are more Melburnians and Sydney-siders in Noosa than actual locals. Let's test that theory. And Kirstie, let's start off by giving us a sense of place. Tell us a bit about Noosa and where it is for those who haven't heard of this tropical paradise.
I will, and it was certainly what shocked me is it felt as far as Melbourne as you can get. So Noosa is a shire in Queensland's Sunshine Coast, and part of that shire is Noosa Heads, Noosaville and Noosa Junction, which are all areas that we visited, as well as the Noosa Everglades. So the area is a World Surfing Reserve, and it's also, a lot of people might not know, but a designated UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. And most people come here because, you know, I mean, it's a very pretty coastal town and it's got loads of great things to do and see. But, you know, it's probably got more to do than most people even ever imagined, and it certainly did for me.
Well, let's dive right in. So, first of all, where did you stay?
We were staying at a place called the Rise Noosa, which is self-contained luxury apartments, which are literally like 5 minutes from Hastings Street. And in our case, our apartment overlooked the beach in the distance, so beautiful, beautiful sunsets actually. And the blessing of these apartments is that you have a separate lounge, 2 bathrooms and a kitchen, so you can cook your own meals. So, you know, if you're out and about all day, you can just come back and cook yourself something and stay in if you wanted to. And also it has a really good balcony, so you can sit there and sip on a vino and soak up that view that I was talking about. And there's also a 20-metre pool and a spa as well. And if you want a little walk through my room, you can just head over to Kirstie Writes on Instagram and check it out.
Yeah, cool. Although I don't know about cooking on holidays, I reckon a cheese platter is about as much as I'm going to muster. So, which sounds fantastic with that sunset. So, I've got to say, you're a very busy girl in Noosa. Let's talk about how you filled your days up. First up, what was the absolute highlight of the trip?
Okay, so the highlight had to be the whale watching. So I have done whale watching, as you have, all over Australia and New Zealand. But the whale watching here was just really, really special. And I was trying to work out why that was. And I think it's mainly because of Pepe Simpson and her husband, Albie Curtis, who run this whale songs, Noosa whale watching tours. And they've got a 9-metre boat, which is actually certified by the Navy, and they take really small groups out. But the best thing about their boat was, like when you go out on some of these whale watching boats, you're strapped into the boat, and then so you can't really move around. But in their boat, you just wander around wherever you want. And it was such a small group that it was just us, my husband and I, one family and one other couple. So also being in a really small boat, like a 9-metre boat, you can get much closer to the whales. And in Noosa, to see the whales, you're actually relatively close to the shore, which hasn't been the case for me when I've done it in the past. And I hate big waves, because I get major seasickness. So which is why I'll never go to Antarctica and do the Drake Passage. So this is an absolute blessing for someone like me who doesn't like being out in the rough high seas. So we were so fortunate that when we were there, we had a mother whale and her baby swim right next to us, and the baby came up next to the boat. And so we weren't, they don't obviously go and deliberately try and go close to the whale. So we saw the whales in the distance and we were thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. And the baby flipped its tail in the air and it was doing all sorts of acrobats. And then while we were just sitting there, the baby whale just came towards the boat and then literally was right next to the boat and did a flip over, and I could see its eye and its flipper, and you can hear on my Instagram when I did the post saying, oh my God, I saw its eye. But I was so shocked at how close that we got to it. So that was amazing. And you can also see that footage on my Insta. And Pepe says that scientists call this event, which I didn't realize this, but when you're doing whale watching and a whale chooses to interact with you, so very close to you, to the boat, it's actually scientifically called a mugging, but she calls it a hugging. And fun fact also, Pepe was explaining to us that the mother actually pumps the milk into the water, and that's how the baby feeds. And baby whales put on 45 kilograms a day while they're during this migration. That's how much weight they put on. Isn't it fascinating? So if you are here in whale season, which is May to October, this is something it's a must do. You absolutely have to look up whale songs with an S and go out with Pepe, because she's just so passionate and remarkable. And the boat leaves from Noosaville. And can I just say, segue into Noosaville? Oh my God. Like, I had heard, we'd been to Noosa before, but for some reason, we hadn't been over to Noosaville. And this has got to be the region's best kept little quaint village secret, because this little stunning strip of boutiques and cafes is right across the road from the water. And we loved it so much, like the feel of it. It's got a really good vibe. It's just got that holiday sort of vibe, and it's so pretty that we started looking at, as you do, the cost of houses. So you can get the most gorgeous apartment, which I shouldn't be telling anyone, but it's going to set you back about a cool 1.4 million for a little apartment, and say a low-rise block right overlooking the water. I'm like, Dave, can we just sell the house now, get the 17 through school, and we are gone. So back to the whales. I'm going to give Pepe the final word on this. So take a listen to how passionate she is about this experience.
So I spent many years in Hawaii with the dolphins, spending a lot of time in the water with the dolphins and really learning a lot from them and with them. And the whales are just an extension of that. They're all part of that incredible intelligence, and they just affect us as deeply as the dolphins. So by taking people out, you get to live the dream. And we're buena out. And I just, it's so beautiful. But bringing this land and just seeing the joy that brings then, and to learn more about them, So I work with all sorts of things. I also study animal communication, and I brought out to Australia one of the world's leading animal communicators. So I'm always practicing the animal communication all the time. That's something that's quite new for a lot of people to understand, that the whole animal kingdom communicates telepathically with each other. We can do that. It's not a gift that only some people have. It's you just got to practice all the time. So when I'm with the whales, like when that calf was coming towards me, I'm telepathically communicating with that whale all the time. saying, we love you, you're safe, you're welcome here. So, they feel that.
That was just amazing, Kirstie. I loved that footage of your baby whale. It was absolutely phenomenal, and she sounds just fantastic. So, whale watching was not the only thing you did. I saw that you also went for a hike too. I mean, would it be a trip for you if you didn't go for a hike?
You know me too well. And so, no, it would be. So we wandered down. We were staying at the Rise and we only had a few hours. So we went for a few hours through the Noosa National Park and we only turned back because we were running out of time for dinner. So we just didn't have a chance to explore it all. But there's about 2,800 hectares, more than that, 883 hectares to explore. And it wraps around the headland. So it goes right round to Coolum. So this hike is amazing. Like, it hugs the coast initially, and then it just and then it goes more inland and over. And so you can even spot whales in whale season if you took the time to actually sit down and take a look. And there's also some endangered bird species too. But the best thing I think about this park, this incredible national park, is that it's so close to Noosa. So it's literally just a couple of minutes, the starting point from the shopping strip, and there's a boardwalk on that first part too, so it makes it pretty accessible for everyone.
Yeah, it's a fantastic hike. Look, we haven't stopped here yet in the things that you did, because from hiking, you went biking as well, didn't you? I mean, a woman could get tired just watching your reels on this trip. I had to have a Bex and a nice lie down. So tell us about the biking.
We did. We went biking, but they were e-bikes. That was easy. So we went out with By Earth and Ocean, which run e-bike tours, and we were with our tour guide on the day was a Kiwi called Matt Watts, and he works in corporate actually in the business, but he also takes the occasional tour, and because he loves it so much, so he opted to take us. And so they start in Noosaville, and you're taken on a short drive with the bikes on. They load them up on the back of a van. And can I just say, there's an amazing distillery across the road from that office. So when you get back, you can go for a spanky drink. So anyway, and they make gin there. And it's incredible gin. I had the best gin and tonic. Anyway, back to the biking. So so the van takes you up to the summit of Mount Tinbua, and it's about a 500-meter walk to the summit, and you have these most incredible views of the hinterland. And from there, you then jump on the bikes and head all the way down. So it's super steep, and it was a lot of fun. So, and then part of they do a variety of length of e-bike tours around the place, but part of the one we did, part of it went through the trail and through the forest, and then it also passes through the road that was actually the original road to get to Cooroy, but they've actually blocked it off, and it's completely closed off. And what they only use this road now for a few things, which is so fascinating. So they only use it, they maintain it to incredible standard, because there's branches falling on it all the time. So they maintain this road mainly for just 2 weeks of the whole year, which is for the Noosa Hill Climb, which is a car race. And then it's also used as training for the Noosa Triathlon, because it's so freaking steep. We were watching these people come up it was fascinating while watching them. And Matt was going, I bet you they've done that about 5 or 6 times. And their faces were just, the effort that went into this. No wonder people in Queensland are so fit, right? And they, and that's what that road's used for.
Oh, that's so funny. I think I might have cycled there when it very first opened. It was just a small part of it. So it's incredible that it's expanding. But, oh my God, running up and down it. Yes, are we sitting down yet? Are you sitting down yet, or have you got another activity?
So there is another one. So in true Kirstie style. So yes, another must do when you were there is to go kayaking, and we went kayaking through the Everglades. So and the Everglades are actually home to a stingray sanctuary. So this slightly freaked me out when we initially went there, because our guide, Lisa Dore, was saying that there's parts of it that we would actually have to, hop out of the kayaks and walk across the sandbanks. And there are stingrays like everywhere. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to stand on it's just going to be my luck. I'm going to stand on a stingray. But she was saying, don't worry about it. They move really quickly and you can see them, and, and on all her guiding. I said, did you ever stand on one? And she was like, no, I've never stood on one. So after spotting many, many stingrays, I was soon assured that, yep, she was right. They're very large. They vary in size, actually, from the size of like a bird or a large fish to 3 meters long. And because the water's so clear, you can see them really easily. So there was one part, I have to admit, that I still played princess because the water was deep enough for my husband, for not both of us to be in the kayak. So given my husband's 85 kilos, so heavier than me, much heavier than me, he had to hop out and I got to stay in, and he just dragged me on the sandbank. And I did feel like a complete, royalty sitting in a chariot or something. But I thought, if there's any chance that I don't have to get out and risk standing on a stingray, then I'm doing it. So this tour is 3 hours and you paddle for most of that. And depending on the wind, it can be a really good workout, man, but it is so worth it. I tell you what, apart from seeing these stingrays, which was remarkable, one of the most incredible parts was that the water is so glassy on the creeks that the forest reflects off it, and it's just incredible. It's like looking in a mirror. It's just like glass. So you literally, it's like, it's like a mirror reflection of the forest on the water. And so you're just gliding through, these the shadows of the trees. It was just so beautiful and pretty and remarkable. So yeah, that's another thing I would say definitely put on your to-do list if you're going.
Oh, I want to go kayaking there now. Stingrays are amazing to watch. Um, so, so tell me, like in all of this, what surprised you about Noosa? Given that so many of us have gone there, are there still surprises?
I think the thing that surprised me the most was there's so much to do so close to Noosa. So all those things I just mentioned are all just 5 minutes away. So you don't have to drive. I hate going on holiday and having to get in the car and drive around. So you don't really have to drive very far, if at all. And I do have to say, even though I don't particularly travel for food like you do, Belle, I know how much you love your food, but and you're hiking and biking, but also you're a foodie.
Thank you. That make me sound like a complete larder. Yeah.
But the food was really good. So my tips, if you're going into town, are if you're going to Noosa, take these tips down for places to eat, because I am telling you right now, you will not be disappointed. So first up is the Noosa Surf Club, which is obviously right in the heart of Noosa. And the view here, I mean, you're overlooking the surf beach, right? Beautiful. But throw on a bucket of prawns and Prosecco and, really good quality food. It was exceptional food. And, you've got me there. Lanai in Noosaville was hands down. We'll put a link in the show notes because you might not know how to pronounce. I might be pronouncing it wrong, or I'll put the link in so you can see where these are. But that was hands down some of the best food either of us have ever eaten, and I don't say that lightly. It was remarkable food. This is a brand new restaurant that's just opened. The interiors are stunning. The dishes are mostly dairy and gluten-free, and the presentation was just so on point. It was like art on a plate. Like, it was just exceptional. And then the other one I would say not to miss is Light Years Asian Bar and Diner, which is, it's at Noosa Junction, and it's so cool. They actually have 5 restaurants around the country. They've got one in Perth, and I think the rest of them are in Queensland. And the food here was again just exceptional Asian, and it was a real sensory overload. So both the food and the interiors, but yeah, again, like a definite must do if you're gonna go up there.
Oh, yum. So, Noosa's food, phenomenal. But given that you haven't been back for more than a decade, did it live up to expectations? I think this question is a bit of a Dorothy Dixter, really.
Look, I have to say, having only been up there with toddlers, we didn't go to Noosaville, and we just went up with actually when my youngest son was turning 1, and we sort of just hung out in Noosa, really. I love Noosaville. It's just a place now that I am just adore. It's so much quieter and calmer than the main street, like Hastings Street of Noosa, and there's so much to do. Like I said before, most of those things, except the national park, obviously, are from Noosaville. So, but it was also about how the people we met talked about it, and we always talk about this when we go somewhere, that it's always made special by the people, right? A place, there's nothing beats meeting people behind a place, and they're so passionate about it. So from Liesl, who was the guide on the kayak, who was so excited to see stingrays, and she does those tours, all the time. She's out there weekly. And yet she was so excited every time we saw a stingray. To Kiwi Matt on our bike, who was telling us about how, there's so much investment going into making the biking trails, working on them and extending them, and how much there is to do with the great outdoors. And when we were standing on that lookout point, he couldn't get enough of it. And I was thinking, dude, you must be up here all the time, but he just loved it. He just kept saying how special it was. And then Peppy and her love of those whales and those dolphins. And as she said, forget about a mugging. It's all about a hugging. And, to be honest, that's sort of how I felt. So everyone just it does really feel like everyone just wraps you up in a bit of a hug. And so it will definitely not be 10 years before we go back.
Oh, I think you're going to be part of that Melbourne migration. I love it. No, you made me want to go back. I haven't been back for a few years. If you want to find out more about the places that Kirstie's mentioned, we'll put them in the show notes. And you can also visit the website visitnoosa.com.au.
Our tip this week is about the top destinations for astro adventures in 2025. So insurance company Insure My Trip has been doing some research into the night sky and has found the best places to go if you love a bit of stargazing. And I know this is definitely right up your alley, right, Belle?
Oh, I do love stargazing, and it's good for you. So this is my health tip. My claims about its benefits are backed up by research because I'm not a doctor, but it does show that time spent under a dark sky can improve your sleep, reduce your stress, and boost emotional well-being. So Insure My Trip analysed more than 40 global destinations, assessing everything from light pollution to cloud cover forecasts and observatories that are in the area. So, of course, if you're a night sky watcher, you will have already had your telescopes out for that eerie blood moon, which is a total lunar eclipse that happened last week, which was visible in parts of Europe, in Africa and Asia, as well as here in Australia.
And the top spot for viewing that red moon was actually here in Australia at Palm Beach Headland, which is in Sydney's northern beaches, and it scored a 7.6 out of 10. So this area is actually such a great place for those who love sky gazing. So it's Australia's first certified urban night sky place. And the report says while the area is urbanised, there's been a lot of efforts to reduce light pollution in the area, because obviously that's how you can see the sky better, right? So they've actually got a lighting management plan, and so that's to make sure that the night sky isn't affected by light pollution, and it also has 5 observatories.
Well, that's lots of places to watch the eclipse. I was quite surprised, actually, because that somewhere so close to Sydney could not have light pollution. So that was amazing news. The other places to watch it best in the world were the Danish island of Anholt, which recently became Denmark's 4th international dark sky park in May this year. It had an overall score of 7.2. With its remote location and striking landscapes, it's ideal for those who want to enjoy these beautiful astronomical events. And third on the list was North Ronaldsay in the Orkney Archipelago in the UK, which is a dark sky island, which has an overall score of 6.8. It also has minimal cloud cover, and you've got views of the Milky Way as well. So I've got to say, on those islands, small island, remote, accommodation is limited. There's a campsite and one property with an outdoor space. So if you do make the trip there, you will be rewarded with some of the most untouched views of the sky. But aren't we lucky that we've got one close to Sydney, I've got to say.
Yeah, I know. We definitely are. And rounding out the top 5 in that list was Spiekeroog. I'm just attempting a really bad pronunciation here. Star Island, which is said to have almost no artificial light and is considered one of the darkest places in Germany, and Pavon Star Island, which is also in Germany. Both of these islands are also part of the UNESCO Wadden World Heritage Site, and thanks to their tidal flat system, which is the largest in the world, which is a bonus for nature lovers. And so we will put a link to all of these places so you can have a look if you want to go out for a bit of stargazing in the show notes.
Next week, My guest is Shane Delia, who grew up here in Melbourne to a Maltese family, and he's taking us to the tiny Mediterranean nation of Malta, sharing his best places and dishes just ahead of Maltese Independence Day on Sunday, the 21st of September. And if you can't wait for more, he is hosting Maltese lunches at his fine dining restaurants, Maha here in Melbourne and Layla in Brisbane. See Maha Restaurant on Instagram for more.
And we'd love it if you followed us on socials. You'll find us at The World Awaits Podcast on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. And feel free to drop us a line at hello@theworldawaits.au. Or if you're enjoying this episode, we would love it if you could please give us a rating or review.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.